So I send around 500,000 cold emails a month at the moment, and in this video I'm going to break down everything you need to know about cold email subject lines. I'll cover what makes great subject lines when sending high volume and low volume. I'll go through some examples of what's working today, and I'll also show you some things to avoid. So just as a bit of social proof, this is us, and these are some other B2B companies that we have helped with cold email. And just to show you, this is the last 7 days of sending. We've sent around 100,000, 107,000 emails. Okay, so let's dive into it. I wanted to just talk a little bit holistically so we understand and we're on the same page when it comes to understanding what a subject line actually does. So you're going to send an email and you're going to hope it gets delivered. And then there's a few things that can happen, right? It can get just unread and unopened, right? It just sits there. It gets unread and unopened. This depends on how sloppy the person you're asking or sending the email is, but most people will either mark it as read, even if they don't open it. So the next option is to mark as read, but don't read. Right? Then there's read email, and then there's another option, and I'm just going to say like read email in Headspace. So we're just going to say that these are just bad, right? And I don't know, honestly, how much the subject line has to do with how likely someone is to read the email. Like, you can say logically, like, yeah, the subject line's why they open the email. I open every email that's in my inbox, regardless of the subject line, and look at it for a second, right? The subject line will determine the frame I open the email in, but I'm going to read every email that comes into my inbox. So I would somewhat argue that this is not just a function of what the subject line is, but just a function of the person, how busy they are, if they're an email person, if they read every email, if they're curious about the emails that come into their inbox, right? What we index more on, probably, is reading email and reading email in the correct headspace, because they can read the email and they can be like pissed off, they could be skeptical, right? Or they could be interested or neutral. Bear in mind, if they read it and they're interested, like the subject line's interesting, and then you underdeliver, right? You can't say, I've got a referral waiting for you, and then you don't. Like, if you underdeliver, now they're going to be pissed off, okay? So typically, you want them to read the email in the correct headspace, and the safest approach is like a neutral headspace, okay? So this is kind of what the options are with an people subject line, all right? Sometimes, if your day is busy and it's just like clearly a sales email, and I'll talk about that in a bit, people will just mark it as read. They just won't open it, right? They know what's happening. But I would argue that most people you're emailing aren't dumb, and like question first name is obviously a sales email. They know it's a sales email, but they will often read the email in one of these headspaces, okay? So I'm just going to start by talking about the gold standard, right? The gold standard of email subject line, I believe, is the show me you know me method, right? Which is talked about in this great video. I know I'm not meant to promote other people's YouTube videos, especially not a huge company like Apollo, but she does a really good job here breaking down a subject line that gets the prospect in the right headspace when they open the email and are impressed. Essentially what you do is you do some background research on the prospect and you find some interesting things, and there must be a fine line here, right? You're not going to be like, your dog's name is Jack and da 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 da, because it seems a little creepy. So it has to be kind of stuff that's like available on the internet, but is somewhat impressive that they found. So for me, I could get emailed in the subject line could be Atlantic Coast case study plus recent move to London, ? Or did my own Kayo almost at 3K subs, new VSL, ? What? Just posted an Atlantic Coast case study, which you can go check out. That's really good. And I moved to London a year ago. But this is on my LinkedIn, and I talk about it in YouTube videos. Right? So it's stuff that's available online. Did my own Kayo. Again, this is in a YouTube video, almost at 3K subs. Again, YouTube, new VSL. We've got a new VSL on our website. All right, so it's stuff that you can easily find. But if anyone sent me these emails, I'd be like, these people are serious. Like, this is a genuine, serious email that I should take seriously and seriously consider what they're saying. Because they've done enough research that they've spent their time to think that it's worth my while. Okay? So I'd be interested to read it, and I'd also be impressed. This info's on my LinkedIn and YouTube, but it's not super easy to put together, and it would start the engagement on the right foot. I've gone down the road of trying to automate this, and it is hard. Like, it's really hard. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm sure there's some wizards out there that potentially can do it. It's just really hard because let's say you've got a lead list and you want to pull this. Yeah, you can pull in, the transcriptions from all their YouTube videos and the transcript and like all their LinkedIn posts into a big master document and then use AI to like pull out relevant things, right? You can do that, but the tone has to be perfect, right? Because humans are very good at noticing when something's slightly off. And so you can creep into like the creepiness, or it can be slightly wrong. And then it's just like you're flipped to the other end of the spectrum where you're not even neutral. You've got like a negative view of what's happening because they get it slightly wrong. For example, people email me and say like, more restaurant leads. That's my old agency. Like, we haven't really worked with restaurants for like 18 months, 2 years now. So it's like, I know you're automating it, and then you're doing a bad job of automating it. And so I'm turned off by this, right? So it can have a negative effect. So maybe you can, like, honestly, if one of you guys can figure out how to do this at scale properly, then that is amazing. Part of the other tricky thing here is like the data sources. Let's say LinkedIn. Like, I'm going to say majority of the people you email don't post on their LinkedIn and don't have a YouTube video or a YouTube channel, which you can scrape. So like finding the content, maybe there's like a bio on their website, on the About Me page or something, or maybe there's other ways to get information. But it's hard to do at scale, right? So if you're doing a lower volume outreach, which is actually what she's talking about here, the perfect cold email. She's talking about like an SDR sitting down and sending out like 20 to 30 cold emails in a week or something, right? If you are doing it that way, I highly recommend doing something like this, right? And I'm naming this a gold standard because it goes down the route of, if done correctly, to be in like this bucket here, where the subject line is an asset to the email. Okay. If you're operating this at scale, I'm just going to say you have to look at other options. If you're a wizard out there that can solve this, then fantastic, and like hit me up because I'll be interested to see how you do it. But you typically need to look at other options when you're operating at scale. And like I said, we're trying to send out like 500,000 emails a month. So getting someone to read your email. People often say that the goal of the subject line is to get someone to read the email, but I would say that misses part of the puzzle. So yes, 1 bazillion %. If the prospect doesn't read your email, then you're not going anywhere. But as I mentioned earlier, the subject line plays some part of that, but I don't know if it plays a massive part of it. I just think some people read the emails and some people don't. And lots of people, if they're busy, will just go through and be like, okay, which of these are from clients that I care about and people I have to respond to, which of them aren't. Yes, this is an invoice for that got paid. Yes, my billing's about to renew for here. Okay, cold email. Mark is read. Right, that's how I check my inbox. Or if I've got time or for whatever reason, I care about emails probably more than the next person. I'll go through and read them and be like, crap. Oh, that's a pretty good cold email. Maybe I'll get back to them and say, you've done a really good job here. I'm not interested, but nice cold email. So you can say lots of things to stop somebody in their tracks and get them to read the email, right? You could say, I slept with your wife in the cold email, right? Like, you're going to get it read, but they're not going to be in the right headspace. They're probably going to be like, it depends. If they're really, like, they just happen to be the type of person who thinks that's kind of funny that you use that in your cold email subject line, then, like, maybe, but they're probably not the type of people that you're trying to work with. There's lots of things you can say to grab their attention, but a lot of those things, you're going to be put yourself in, like, this kind of bucket here, where they're like, nah, fuck you. Like, I'm going to mark this as spam. So I would recommend not doing that. Yeah, in my opinion. You don't want to trick them into reading your email. Like, you want to write compelling subject lines, ideally, or neutral ones, but you don't want to lie, because if you build up expectations and then under-deliver immediately on the email, then they're going to assume you deliver on everything, right? Oh, you've got a product, you probably under-deliver. Oh, you've got a sales call where you're going to go through these cool, interesting, value additive things. You're probably going to under-deliver on the sales call, so I'm not going to show up. So you don't want to trick them. You don't want them to disqualify you before reading your email. You want them to read the email, because they're going to disqualify, ideally, even with the email, you don't want them to disqualify you. For example, if you're trying to sell a Lamborghini for $1,000 or $10,000, and then you email a list and say, wanting to buy a car, $10,000. If you don't specify, because it's only the subject line, so you can't be very specific about what it is you actually do and sell what you do in the subject line, obviously, then lots of people are going to disqualify you, even though it's an offer that they'd all bite on if they had more exposure to what it is you're actually doing. E.g., they read the email and then got on the sales call, and then you were like, yeah, it's a Lamborghini, and it's only $10,000. Okay. You want them to read the email with interest, ideally. Okay. It's the ideal situation. There's two ways to do this, and this is like the most common way. It's like a neutral or ambiguous subject line, and no one is fooled here. Like, yeah, no one is fooled here. You may think no one's fooled here. This is where the goal is to get everyone to open the email without viewing it through a negative lens, right? You want it to be ambiguous, like it could come from somebody in the network. In all honesty, the prospect is like 97% sure that it's a cold email, but they'll just likely read it just in case of the 3% that it's not. Like, question first name, everyone knows is a cold email, but there's like a little chance that it's not a cold email, so they'll read it. All right. Thoughts first name, I've got ideal buyer job here. For example, if you're saying you can get plumbing companies more water heater installations through your crazy new system or process or whatever, they could say water heater installation job. Okay. So ambiguous, neutral. Don't get it twisted though. The prospect, for the most part, is pretty sure it's still a cold email. They just want to read it just in case. Okay. And if you're using a neutral subject line and you're not getting replies, it's not because of your subject line. I'll say that again. If you're using question first name and you're not getting replies, don't watch this video. It's not the issue. The issue isn't the subject line. Go watch another one of my videos where I talk about copy, right, or offers. Could it be better? Like, yes, you can potentially write better copy than like neutral, ambiguous subject lines. But if it's almost definitely not the reason why your emails are not working, right? So we mostly use question first name and split test it with something else. And I'll talk about that in a second. That's what we're doing for most of the emails that we're sending out here. Okay. So next I'm going to talk about interesting subject lines tied into the angle. And this is where some people make mistakes. It's probably where I've made the most mistakes. And this is where you think that you're writing a really good subject line because, yeah, you've just got this idea. This is going to be a good subject line, but it's not. And you don't know that. And you don't split test it with question first name because you think that you're smarter and you get cute with it. If you have an awesome offer, you can test using some of that offer in the subject line. For example, if you generate referral partnerships for decking companies, you can say decking referral. Okay. We use this and this for a lighting procurement company that's reaching out to general contractors about their lighting. So next step with lighting on project made sense. Kitchen job, if you can get someone more kitchen remodeling jobs or something like this. Mold clearance question, right? This makes sense if your offer's around mold clearance. You've got a mold clearance question. So you'll have these ideas. Just always split test them with like one of these: thoughts first name or question first name, something like this. And unfortunately, you're going to find that most of the time question first name wins, which is just what it is. Sometimes you'll find that one of these wins, and that's fantastic. But often you'll find that your fantastic idea wasn't as good as the thing that 99% of people in the space use. So some things that are examples of bad subject lines. So subject lines that scream sales, they piss off prospects or mislead prospects. These are going to be the ones that cause issues. Free leads for you. Just avoid free in the subject line. But this is fine if you have free leads. If you don't, then it's not. So don't use it. I've just put this example because this is like the classic scam cold email back in the day. All caps, exclamation marks, free something, you've won big award, click here to this on this random link and go to this random website and put in your bank card scenario. Done for you Facebook ads for $2.98 a month. So it's not enough text to convince them that you're trustworthy and the offer is good. And so people are just going to assume that you're not trustworthy. So don't, in my opinion, I've just seen lots of, like, if I'm doing a consulting call and I see like their subject line and it's something like this, unless it's been proven to outperform question first name, it's probably not going to outperform question first name. Your biggest marketing challenge solved. Your funnel is broken. Here's the fix. These are like the sorts of subject lines that if you ask like ChatGPT at the moment to give you cold email subject lines, they'll give you. For some reason, they give you like email newsletter subject lines, not cold email subject lines. Maybe I'm just prompting it wrong. That's completely fine. Don't use something like this. It just doesn't ever perform very well, in my opinion. So steer clear of this. The main thing is here is test question first name. You can tie it in with a short subject line that ties to the angle. I will say, up here, they go for long subject lines, and they said don't be scared of a long subject line. And I am not opposed to testing long subject lines if you test it against question first name. Okay. So some final notes. Lowercase letters seem to perform better because they seem to be less pitchy and less formal. So this is capital Q, lowercase q. Like if you're wanting to test this, right, next step with lighting, it's all lowercase. It seems to perform better. Always split test. The game is never won with the subject line, but it can be lost. Right? You're not going to have a great subject line, and that's going to result in money. But if you have a terrible one, you're going to make $0. Okay. Don't look at open rates to gauge if the subject line is good. They're not very accurate and can damage deliverability. So just so you know, if you've got email open rates on, so if you're tracking email open rates, it's putting like a 1x1 transparent pixel, like image, in the email. And then when that email is opened, that image is viewed and it pings the server or cache to say like, hey, yeah, this image has been viewed. So you're actually sending like an image in your first email. So 2 issues there. It can damage deliverability because you're emailing people that you don't know with an image and they're getting strict around that. Secondly, I think Apple like opens and caches or checks all images on the emails. So like your numbers are going to be way inflated, which is it's quite funny. People are like, oh yeah, my open rates have gone to like 60-70% recently in the last couple of years, and they used to be at 30. It's like, yeah, because everyone has Apple phones, iPhones, not everyone, but most people do, and it's automatically opening all these images, and so they're seeing like they're getting really high open rates when they're not. So it's just not a very good way to test subject lines. Test on reply rates. This is probably the biggest one. Just don't stress about it. It's not that big of a deal. Question first name can get you to the moon. So I would say the biggest agencies in the space with their biggest clients use question first name. So like, don't overthink about it. Don't stress about it. Keep it basic and focus on the email having a compelling offer and building a good list. So if you are like a B2B business owner and you are kind of sick of trying to piece all these little bits together, then you can book in a call with myself or somebody in our team below. There should be a link below this video. And if you would rather learn how to do it all yourself, then there should be a 90-minute long video on screen now where I walk through everything step by step. I'll see you there. Peace.